you, Morgan and Jason, and good morning, everyone. So it's really good to see so many familiar faces here. I kind of miss this committee that I used to, come here regularly. Yeah, but as Jason and Morgan mentioned, so my name is Yan Tao. I manage the city's traffic engineering division, which is a sister division, with parking and metro transit within the DOT structure. And so we are a group of 150 people, and we are responsible for the city's pedestrian, bicycle, and the motor vehicle systems. A few years ago, we really started making a lot of shift in what we do and how we do things. We really start to listen to our community, really start to prioritize people, prioritize safety, prioritize equity. So, one of the efforts is that, we started our effort called Vision Zero. So really trying to use a new philosophy to tackle, traffic safety issues, especially, with the impact of the COVID pandemic. We have been seeing, national safety crisis, including here, in Madison. So we have done, a lot of good work on that, and our work has been noticed, by our peers in the country, and we really see a lot of different trend, luckily, than the most of the rest of the country. So here, I really want to thank everyone support. Jason, for example, has been countless of our stakeholder meetings, providing really good input. Madison Bikes has been a very strong partner throughout the process. And thank you, Eleanor and Madison Bikes, by the way, for the invitation to speak at the DMI, not DMI, sorry, at the community event in March. So I really appreciate that, and Renee will be there. And we'll also see the rest of the team can be there, to support as well. But really, obviously, this is a really great community effort. So we saw great collaboration, not just across multiple departments across the city, but really, across our community. So I really feel like we're on following a really good direction. We achieve a lot. But there's still a lot to do. So really looking forward to keeping you all informed and looking for new opportunities to continue the collaboration and also to advance the life-saving initiative. Again and again, I've been telling people, zero should be our only goal, should be the only ethical and acceptable goal, for us to strive for, and they will not stop working till we get there. So with that, I'll pass on to my colleagues, Ali and Renee. So they'll be doing the most part of presentation, and I'll be, helping in a couple of places, and I'll be helping answer questions. So with that, Renee and Ali.
All right, so I'm just gonna, Jason, I can't share my screen. So I'll just introduce myself for anyone who doesn't know me. I'm Renee Calloway. I'm in traffic engineering.
Should be good now, Renee. Should be good.
Thank you. I'm the pedestrian bicycle administrator. And Ali, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Ali Heinratz. I'm a traffic engineer, and I'm a co-lead for this Vision Zero initiative with Renee.
All right. Let me go to the slideshow. There we go. All right. So just quickly, I know we have some new people. What is Vision Zero? Most of you probably, I hope, know this already. But as Yang said, it's a strategy aimed at eliminating traffic fatalities and severe injuries, also improving mobility for all kinds of users. And I think, it's just kind of a change in the philosophy around traffic safety, that you can prevent traffic deaths and that saving lives is not something that's too expensive. It's actually an imperative. Also this idea that people make mistakes and you have to kind of build your system to account for that, that you're not going to have some sort of perfect behavior that's going to happen. Also, I think there is just previously a lot of emphasis on all kind of crashes, regardless of kind of how serious they were. And now this says that, you know, Vision Zero really focuses on those ones that change people's lives drastically. And also just this idea of looking at the entire system that makes up traffic safety. So this is really kind of what you might hear called the safe systems approach. It's really been adopted both by us, but also at the national level. You'll hear a lot of talk about this if you follow, I don't know, the social media of transportation these days. All right, so today we're going to focus in on three particular things. First, some federal grant applications, give some updates on those. With this bipartisan infrastructure law, there's a lot of new programs and a lot more emphasis on safety. So we want to talk about our work in that. Our new city program is called Safe Streets Madison. We want to talk a little bit about the implementation of that program, which started in 2022. And then we just released our first progress report, which is from the beginning of the program in 2020 through 2022. So we'll talk a little bit about that. First, our federal grant applications, we've put in a lot of them. And these are just a few of the ones that we've actually put in across the city. You know, Metro has some. You saw Vice President Harris at the here at our bus facility as well. So just we've been really active. I'm going to talk particularly about our Safe Streets and Roads for All. And then Yang will talk a little bit about the SMART grant, strengthening mobility and revolutionizing transportation, and our latest ATTAIN grant, advanced transportation technology and innovation. So a lot going on in this area. And yes, shout out to Metro over there. Justin has been working hard too. First, I'll talk about our 2022 Safe Streets for All grant. We did receive funding for supplemental planning. There's a lot of money for planning right now in this grant. We'll be doing, in particular, updating our pedestrian plan and prioritizing kind of gaps and important projects. We will be finalizing what we call our All Ages and Ability Bike Network and prioritizing gaps in that network so that we can be moving forward with our most important and impactful projects. And if you want to know more about that work, you can come to the Madison Bikes community meeting because I'm going to be really talking about those projects, which we'll be launching this spring. We'll also be doing some more evaluation of our high injury network, particularly looking at pedestrian and bicycle crashes. We're also launching a bunch of school travel planning, which you'll be hearing more about as well. And we'll be bringing in a new thing from the Safe Systems approach, which is looking at post-crash care. We're just going to start by looking at some of our data around that to see how best to bring that into our Vision Zero planning, because we know that the outcome of a crash also is impacted by how quickly can emergency services start addressing the injuries. Now, excitingly, we also got a 2023 Safe Streets for All grant, which is focused on both implementation and planning. We're now the second city in Wisconsin to get an implementation grant. The first was Milwaukee, so very excited. We have two corridor projects, East Washington Avenue, which is the farthest east of Highway 30, to Anamark, which is just past the mall. We'll be adding pedestrian and bicycle facilities, doing some crossing improvements, lighting improvements. And then also Schrader Road, where we will be adding in some medians, some trees, some better pedestrian crossings, looking at improvements for bicycling on there, and really trying to transform that road into a more neighborhood-friendly street. We also have 21 intersections that we'll be making improvements to. A lot of them are pretty small, some are more mid-sized. And we focused in on intersections that were on our updated transit routes, ones that had not seen improvements previously and were on the high injury network. We also have improvements at 6 shared use path crossings that had injury crashes. And with partnership with public health, we will be starting to work on an impaired driving program as well, because we here in Madison, Wisconsin, generally still see too many crashes involving impaired driving. We also will be doing more planning. We have 4 corridor safety studies that we'll be working on, including Regent Street in the campus area, the southern part of Whitney Way, North Fair Oaks Avenue, and kind of that Shanks Corners area at Winnebago and Atwood. So these will be spread out over the course of several years. We'll be working on these. And we also have money to trial improvements that come out of the safety studies. We'll also be updating our high injury network with the latest crash data and bringing the town of Madison into our high injury network, because the town of Madison still existed when we did our first one. And also some support for improving the metrics and data gathering for our annual report, and working on furthering our equitable engagement plan. We started work on that with our Complete and Green Streets plan. We call it our Let's Talk Streets program, but we want to continue to build on that to make sure we're doing the best possible job. And then we have 4 other smaller kind of trial programs. One is around asphalt art, which is kind of looking broader at how to use art to improve safety and build on the small program that the city currently has. We also have a school street program, which is looking at maybe closing down a street during very limited hours to traffic to improve safety for walking and biking. We'll be doing some focus groups around 65 plus drivers and being more bike ped friendly. We've seen that a high proportion of crashes involving walking and biking do involve 65 plus drivers. So we want to dig into that more. And then we have a program working with teens just around mobility safety generally, that will also be based on teen crashes, like the most common teen crashes. So lots of exciting work will be happening. This is for the more infrastructure and demonstration projects that are tied to locations where you see them, where they're happening. The orange is the federal government's environmental justice areas, which does differ a bit from the cities. But we reflect that as well, because that's a metric that is important to the US DOT. I'm going to turn it over to Yang to talk about the SMART grant now.
Okay, thank you, Renee. So really quickly about kind of another grant that we want to mention. So this application is really about applying advanced technology to help us to improving safety. So we have been doing quite a bit of work along our Park Street corridor. Kind of exploring the most advanced technologies in the industry. So we had been building some infrastructure. So mostly, for example, like connected vehicle technology. But I think one thing that one limitation that I was seeing in the industry is that people use the technology mostly focus on motor vehicle safety. So here in Madison, we're really trying to emphasize the other component of it, which is using technology to improve safety of our most vulnerable road users. Those are pedestrians and pedestrians and bicyclists. So for this proposed project, so we propose to kind of build on what we already built on the Park Street corridor, and collaborate with UW Madison and develop some new technology to detect pedestrians, bicycles, and cars, and predict the potential conflicts that may be happening. Sometimes that if you give folks a little bit warning when something bad things about to happen, hopefully a lot of times you can reverse that consequence. So really, we're trying to kind of focus on communicating, find a way to communicate the alerts to different road users, either through the infrastructure, such as suddenly a sign starts flashing at you, or when people have a device in their vehicle or on their phone, they can get a message, especially for some turning vehicles, they often not yielding to the pedestrians. So we want to send alert to drivers in the vehicles. There is a pedestrian in the crosswalk, things like that. So really trying to predict those conflicts and avoid bad things from happening. We also built in a strong workforce development component into it, engaging the Madison College. So this corridor is right by a main campus, the Goodman campus of Madison College, and Madison College has a high rate of minority students and disadvantaged students. So really trying to work with them and providing employment and workforce development opportunities for college students to learn about transportation technology and become part of the future workforce. And of course, that we're trying to synergize with other grant programs we are pursuing and we got, such as the Safe Streets for All grant. So we're trying to do things, improving safety from all different angles, from changing the roadway environment, from doing better planning, and by using better technology to help. Next slide, please. So next one. So another grant I want to talk about quickly is the ATTEND grant application. So that's called Advanced Transportation Technology and Innovation Program. Again, this is a technology focused grant program, and we look at the applications kind of around the country. And again, I think we want to do things a little bit differently. So what we are proposing through this grant is to build Vision Zero technology and innovation corridor along US 151. So that's the East Washington Avenue, the whole stretch of East Washington Avenue. That's the Blair Street, Jonathan Drive, then Profit, West Washington Avenue, and the whole stretch of Park Street. So really trying to get a federal grant. We're asking a little bit over $5 million, and so really trying to leverage what we have already done on Park Street, expand a corridor, set up a corridor that emphasize technology and innovation, and for with a safety focus. For this particular one, we also were able to get again UW Madison and the state DOT on board, working with us, and so the state actually going to put in significant amount of funds, about $900,000, into the additional money into the project. And the university will also provide $400,000 match into this, to do a lot of research, and really trying to develop something new, not just for a city, but for a whole country. And we're looking at developing applications such as bright light running warning. We have noticed a lot of crashes, a lot of times involving pedestrians, for example, involve bright light running. And so right now in Wisconsin, we don't have a whole lot of options to solve that problem, except have a police officer stationed there like whole time, which is really hard for them to do, for them to prove, for them to keep a record, so they can be successful in a court. And we are, Wisconsin does allow automatic enforcement, by cameras. So that's not an option. So we're really trying to use that technology to help us solve the problem. We are also looking to improve emergency response along the corridor and also through the city, trying to give them better priority, help them to move through the system faster. For ambulances, for them to respond to situations, and also for snowplows. A lot of the crashes along the corridor are related to snowy and icy conditions. So hopefully this will help to help up street division, get the streets closed, plowed sooner, and trying to reduce the number of crashes. So again, another technology and innovation focused. So really hope that we'll get a funding and start to build a corridor. We are, also pursuing and have received, quite a few other, safety-related grants, like, 3 highway safety improvement projects. Those mostly doing major intersection improvements. But those obviously will be more kind of taking a more traditional approach. And that's because that's kind of the focus of those programs. So I'm not going to talk about those too much. But with that, I'll turn over back to my teammates.
All right, thanks, Yang. All right, I'm gonna hand it over to Allie now.
All right. I'll be talking a little bit about our newer program on choosing our Vision Zero projects, and that's called Safe Streets Madison program. This really focuses on improving our streets, focusing on eliminating those serious and fatal crashes, and closing gaps in the walk and bike network. And those kind of projects are, putting in more RFBs in, protected bike lanes, raised crosswalks, bump outs and whatnot that you've probably seen spring up around the city. And those are small little improvements that don't necessarily cost a ton of money, but they really make a difference in creating a safer streets, lowering speed limits and whatnot. But so with the Safe Streets Madison program, this kind of helps us organize and select our projects in a better way rather than before, it's kind of ranks projects from, it ranks the streets by through our high injury network, through equity areas and whatnot. And so this program is just a little more organized, and that's kind of how we select our projects from now on. Next slide. And so just a little bit of, I guess, information on that. Since 2022, 45 projects were completed through the Safe Streets Madison program. 100 additional projects were approved and to be constructed very soon. We have another round of projects coming up this year even. And so just those, or I guess since 2022, we've already done a lot of projects. And then 500 even plus projects were already selected. It's just really getting those contractors, designing and whatnot to get those projects out. That's kind of the hard part about it, but we already have these projects in the works and there'll be a lot more coming soon. Next slide. So now I'll dive into the progress report. I guess a year or two ago, we put out our action plan. Hopefully a lot of you kind of looked at that, read through it a little bit. But this is our progress report. This kind of holds us accountable to report back on what we promised in our action plan. And some of those performance metrics that we mentioned in our action plan, we broke those down into like 6 different categories: safe streets, safe people, safe vehicles, safety data, equity, and safety focused enforcement. And so this report dives into those 6 strategies, and we're reporting back on some of those action items that we promised that we report back on in the first few years. And then, so this 2020 to 22 progress report reports back on those action items that we promised. Next slide. Briefly, I'll go over the timeline of Vision Zero. We first introduced Vision Zero to the public by passing a resolution in the mayor announcement in summer of 2020. We first had our Vision Zero projects and our speed management program implemented in summer of 2020 as well. We started our first round of Let's Talk Streets engagement piece in 2021. In summer of 2021, we also had our second phase of Vision Zero projects and speed limit reductions, as well as our first phase of 20 is Plenty, which will be rolling out the rest of it this year. In 2022, we put out our action plan, and it was accepted by the city council. And we also were officially recognized as a Vision Zero city. We continued with our public outreach. We also put more Vision Zero projects out through Safe Streets Madison, and continued our speed management program as well. And then 2023, we continued all of that. And now we're putting out our first progress report. Next slide. So I'll briefly go through these strategies. Safe Streets is really focused on designing our streets for safer travel. And like I mentioned before, that kind of includes Safe Streets Madison, designing our streets for safer travel for vehicles, pedestrians, bicyclists. And those are, like protected bike lanes, raised crosswalks and whatnot, just to make, much safer, especially for those vulnerable roadway users like pedestrians and vehicles that we really focused on. And this map just kind of shows, it's kind of probably hard to see on this PowerPoint, but if you go into our progress report, you can really kind of see all of the projects kind of that we've done around the city. And we try to really pick these projects, on the high injury network, as well as equity areas. This map shows, our speed limit reductions, as well as just really those smaller projects that we've done as well. And just kind of a little blurb from the progress report. From 2020 to 2022, 6.2 miles of new sidewalk, shared use path, and protected bike lanes were constructed, and 11.4 miles of bike lanes were added or improved as well. Next slide. So Safe People really is the section that encourages safe behavior of vehicles, pedestrians, bicyclists. This is our outreach kind of section. Ever since 2020, we've done a lot in our community, especially in the summer months, of course. It's easier to get out in the public, engage with people. And a few of those highlights were our Parks Alive events in the summer. We really like doing this. It's going out into the different communities, different parks around the city, especially the equity areas, really engaging with those families that we really don't hear from as much. In Parks Alive, it's kind of kid focused, but we also kind of do some traffic safety activities with them. And then we also kind of introduce them to some of the safety projects that were happening in their neighborhoods. So people really liked hearing kind of what improvements are going on in their neighborhood. Some other engagement pieces we were doing is like Be Bright at Night, handing out free bike lights to college students around the city. Also, we've done a yield to pedestrian campaigns, also Safe Routes to School campaign. And then we also, last 2 years, we have done the World Day of Remembrance for road traffic victims. And this, we kind of put out a display, really just showing all of the people who've lost their lives due to traffic violence. And it just was eye-opening, having that display and just really speaking on it. But and then there's the graph on the left just kind of shows the vehicle miles traveled. And this just kind of wants to highlight, we want to try to get people to use more public transportation, get on their bikes, walk to work, walk to school and whatnot. But that just kind of shows the progress. Next slide. So Safe Vehicles strategy section. This section really focuses on properly operating vehicles with safety features. Our fleet section in the city has really done a great job in focusing on driving safety within their section. In 2022, over 600 city vehicles had speed monitoring in their vehicles. The graph displays the monthly count of recorded speeding incidents, including vehicles speeding for 30 seconds or longer. So this is just one thing that they have done for, I guess, tracking safety. I know they also have tracked hard braking within city vehicles. People wearing oh my gosh, sorry, wearing seatbelts in city vehicles as well. So that's all being tracked as well. And ever since that has been put in city vehicles, the numbers have really gone down for excessive speeding, hard braking, seatbelt wearing as well has really gone up. So that's really good to hear. Next slide. So this section of safety data, it really focuses on analyzing and having the tools to understand crash history and the factors that cause that. And this just table kind of shows that from 2020 or 2019 to 2022, our number of crashes technically really haven't gone down. They've kind of stayed the same or increased. But the most important thing is that our fatalities and serious injury crashes have decreased. And that's the most important thing. That's what Vision Zero is really focused on. And so it just kind of shows, our efforts are working, and we want to get those numbers down to zero. Next slide. Equity, I kind of mentioned this before. Equity is, a big part of Vision Zero, and really focus on those areas we really don't hear from as much, and the areas that have experienced, more gaps in sidewalk and bike facilities and whatnot. And so 45% of those RFBs, rapid flashing beacons, that were installed in the city, 45% of those were in equity areas. 9 out of 15 of those high visibility crosswalks were also in those equity areas. 4 new driver speed backboards were implemented in those areas. And one of our 20 is Plenty project launch or pilot program was in the Teresa Hamersley neighborhood, which is an equity area. And then some other reconstruction and resurfacing projects in those areas really saw some great improvements, such as shared use paths, protected bike lanes, raised crosswalks and whatnot. Just really a lot of those safety features to improve traffic safety in those areas. Next slide. And then lastly, safety focus enforcement is really understanding, Madison Police Department's role in Vision Zero and how they can really be a role in Vision Zero. And so this kind of graph shows that the police have been working hard on not citing non-hazardous movements, but more working on, engage or education and warnings for non-hazardous movements rather than citing. And this chart just shows the overall volume of hazardous to non-hazardous warnings issued in 2018 to 2022. And so just overall, they've been focusing on those hazardous movements rather than non-hazardous movements. Next slide. And I'll hand it over to Renee to talk
Sorry about that. I was ahead of you there. All right, so I want to talk briefly, I know we're almost out of time, on speed management. Hopefully you've all seen this graph of why it matters. Speeds matter in terms of safety. So a lot of focus has been on, our very aggressive speed management program, where we've reviewed and subsequently reduced the speed limit on 18 streets. And so we did a study of 31 locations on those 18 streets, looking at vehicles traveling 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit, because as that previous chart showed you, those highest speeds are the ones where you're most likely to have those serious and fatal crashes. And what we saw is generally we did see a decrease in the percent of vehicles traveling 10 miles over an hour. 5 locations, that was not the case. We did not. We actually saw a little increase. And 2 locations, the data it was just really not complete enough to do the assessment. Our progress report has an appendix. If you go to our website, which we'll share, it includes all of that data in it. And so if you are a data geek, you are going to love this appendix. We used what some of you may have heard of called streetlight data to do the analysis. Streetlight was originally using location-based services, which is more like apps in your cell phone that track you. It was using that to provide us with data. They have now changed to what they say is a better data point, which is connected vehicle data. If you have an old car, you don't have that, but it used to be kind of your OnStar, but now apparently modern cars have so much more computer chips in them that provide that level of information. And so they are using that. And you'll see reflected, that kind of reflects how we looked at the data, because they recommend not comparing those different kinds of data with each other. So we've been careful not to do that. And we've also showed both the percent of traffic in one chart and the volume of traffic in another, because of the pandemic. That is, there's been some swings in that. So we wanted to be, pretty transparent and reflect both of those. So I'm not going to go into that in depth, because you can really dig into that online. But for those of you who are interested, we are open to new members for our stakeholder task force. Jason is one of our members representing DMI. Our next meeting is on April 17th. We'll have another quarterly newsletter coming out. You can sign up for it on our webpage. If you haven't, I recommend it. Lots of great information in there. Our Safe Streets projects, we'll be doing more of our Safe Streets Madison projects. And we're going to start launching soon our Safe Streets for All planning projects related to walking and biking that I mentioned. So that's going to be exciting work that will take place this summer, and prioritizing our projects. And if you want to look at our progress report, it's on cityofmadison.com Vision Zero, along with our action plan. That's where you can sign up for the newsletter. You can always reach out to any of us directly as well. And that's it for time.
Wow. Excellent, Renee. Thank you a ton. We've got a couple of, we'll just go, a minute or two over to answer some of the questions that are in the chat right now. Feel free to go if you have to. We totally understand. What is a post-crash care, and how will data be collected? From Jay.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure.
Go
Sorry,
ahead. Go ahead.
So post-crash care is really going to come from our emergency services, our ambulances, our fire department, people like that already collect a lot of data, and we're going to collect it all and work with the UW TOPS lab to evaluate it and look and see what kind of trends or issues, kinds of things like IT, like that intelligent transportation system stuff that could help them have better response times where they're not.
Excellent. Thank you. Question from Dave. Do you want to answer your question yourself? It looked like there was potential discussion on the reconstruction of University Avenue to slower speeds, but maybe that didn't go anywhere. What answers to that question?
Thanks, Jason. Just a quick question. There probably is no quick answer. During the initial public input portions of the University Avenue reconstruction project, there were city staff discussions of perhaps lowering the speed limit on that stretch from the current 35 miles an hour to 25 or 30 miles an hour. With the reduced width lanes that all 6 of those lanes have now under the reconstructed project, that would seem to fit with lower speed limits. So I'm just wondering if lower speed limits along that stretch are still an option.
That's a great question, Dave. So Ellie, are you on the project team? Or
I am not.
It's Jeremy. It's Jeremy. Yeah,
It's Jeremy. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah. So I believe that's the option, and we're planning to do it off construction. I think we're looking at reducing it from 35 to 30, but we can double check on that. I know there are has been some concerns on that, from other stakeholders. So yeah, but from what I can recall, that's the option. But if for some reason after other stakeholder inputs we change our decision, we'll let you know.
Thank you, Yang.
Thanks, Yang. Chris, and then Jay.
Thank you. some neighborhoods in Madison seem to be getting more of these physical traffic calming measures like speed bumps and things like that, and other neighborhoods don't have them yet. I was just curious about, the plans to expand that, roll that out, and is there anything that people in the neighborhoods that don't have them yet can do to kind of move up on the list?
Sure, I can probably take that one because I co-lead the Safe Streets Madison program with Tom Moore in our office, and we have quite a few. We have that list of 500 requests, and so if a street isn't on our list, that certainly can be added. We do use very strong metrics, very different from our old traffic calming program, where we do look at safety and kind of pedestrian and bicycle connectivity. So speed humps are perhaps not rolling out as fast as when a neighborhood could just vote to have them. And if they saw speeding, they would get them. We're looking more now at trying to get our biggest crash areas done first. But we definitely have still added some speed humps, particularly ones that kind of rank the highest are by schools, parks, places that have had crashes, things like that. But we certainly can add anything to the list, and they can be emailed to safestreets@cityofmadison.com.
Yeah, maybe just quickly add on
Thanks.
that. Yeah, we can also, looking into simply, reducing speed limit on the streets. We feel like, car speed is not appropriate, as, Dave mentioned. And, also in Renee's slideshow, she mentioned 31 locations we saw improvement. So that 31 was out of 38 locations we studied. So that percentage actually is pretty high. We saw some positive improvements just by changing the speed limit. So.
And I should say our 20 is plenty for residential streets. It's in 2 neighborhoods right now, but it will be coming to many more this summer.
Perfect, Dan. Jay.
Thanks.
All right, thanks everybody for a great presentation. My first question is for Allie. Your presentation had a histogram showing VMT kind of generally going down. And one of the concerns I've heard about, measures that reduce car use and stuff like that is that it reduces economic vibrancy. It'd be interesting to have a histogram that shows VMT but also pedestrian, bicycle, transit, and total trips. Because I think what the data will show is that as we push people out of cars, we're not reducing trips overall. So there's no real economic concern. And I suspect that overall trips might actually go up because people will be taking more frequent, shorter trips as they adjust their life to a car light, infrastructure system. So I just suggest that as a interesting metric that I think would be very helpful to see going forward.
Yeah, no, that's a great point and great suggestion. I think it was VMT. It was kind of a struggle to even get some of that data as well. I know we kind of want to improve on that. So yes, I appreciate your comments because that is something we're looking into. So
thanks. And my second question is for Renee. You mentioned that there's going to be a Winnebago corridor safety study. I'm wondering, what is the timing on that?
Sure. So like I said, we have a variety of corridor studies. Our first one will be Regent Street. And so we don't even have our agreement in place with the USDOT yet. So this is all speculation based on when we have that in place. But I am thinking that is probably a 2027 safety study. Regent Street got money to be reconstructed. So we are doing that safety study first.
Great, thanks.
Well, they answered my question about how that safety study will inform the new street. So there you go. 2 for 1. Thank you. We do, I should say, we do run the Regent Street group, which is a great business organization in and around Regent Street. So please let us know how we can help with that exercise. Several people, Bill Connors, a few on it. Yeah, we're actually starting a business group, a storefront business group as we speak. So, yeah. Yep. All right, Morgan, back to you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for the amazing presentation.
I've got one question myself before we wrap it up, which is we had a great presentation here at DMI last month about the passenger rail station options. And some of them are these amazing multimodal accessible areas that we'll really want to be thinking about Vision Zero. So I want to know how you all are incorporating that into big projects like passenger rail, Imagination Center, other things like that around town.
Yeah, sure. I think, you know, we have an interdepartmental team across many, many departments who work on this so that we can keep it informed in all of our projects across the city. I mean, obviously with the passenger rail, it's really at top of mind because we know that we want it to be walk bike friendly as well. And, you know, there's differing, you know, it's different for every location. So we do try to keep that in mind and keep in mind the need you know, for associated improvements to help facilitate that should it not be a walkable, bikeable location. So, you know, we definitely work with the planner, with Liz, who's working on that as well as with people, you know, like on the Imagination Center, knowing that there are improvements that are needed in those areas. And for instance, that East Washington project, you know, like will link up to the path in Rindal as well. So I think trying to really build that synergy that you need in a project like this across the city.
Great, thank you. Thanks for hanging around for a little bit longer. We really appreciate it. Such good information and discussion. So thank you so much. I'm sure we can field other questions if people have them afterwards. So let me or Jason know if you do. Thank you so much, Renee, Yang, even though he's not here, and Allie. We really appreciate your time. Thanks everyone for being here. Jason, anything else to close it out with announcements for DMI?
No, thank you very much. They're all on our website. We really do appreciate the continued partnership with the city. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. See ya.